you could have a thousand arguments why the price will go down based on fundamentals, and only one argument or two or three, a lot less, why they will go up. If the sellers are completely exhausted, then the price, no matter how bearish you want to get on the fundamentals, the price will still go up.
The crypto bear market is now reaching over a year as the price fell down from 69,000 all the way to 15K. Now, as we start to see some positive price action, many people started to talk about crypto hitting the bottom of the bear market, while many others are saying that now is the time to accumulate crypto. In today's video, George Gammon, experienced investor and entrepreneur, will share his thoughts on Bitcoin. What is going on at the moment? Is this the right time to buy crypto, or should we anticipate more downside action? George will present a graph showing the percentage of people that haven't been transacting Bitcoin in 6 months, and will share his thoughts on what does this all mean for crypto. Before we jump to the clip, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. It helps us a lot. Now sit back, relax, and let's see what George has to say.
The record proportion of Bitcoin units haven't transacted in 6 months, or a record percentage of total Bitcoin units have not transacted in 6 months. So what percentage is that right now? That's 78%. 78%. To give you some context, and what it looks like is when the price gets high, when we see these big spikes, is when you see more transactions or more activity, which would make sense. You know, you see kind of like the volume spike in like a stock. And that would be indicated by this blue line actually going down, because that means fewer people are, or what would that mean? That would mean that there is more transactions as a percentage of the outstanding float within the 6 months, right? Because it would just basically be the inverse, because what this 78, or the higher the number goes, that means the more people are actually hodling, because that's the percentage that has not transacted in the last 6 months. So as that goes down, the transaction amounts in aggregate total increase. So hopefully I explained it well there. And then down the bottom, this gold line is the actual price of Bitcoin. So again, you can see price goes up. This means that the activity goes up, the amount of hodling goes down, represented by how many units have not transacted in 6 months. The wording here is a little weird, but you guys get it. So when I was looking at this with Josh, this 78% number, the first thing that came to my mind is, wow, that would actually make me very, very bullish. Why? The reason you want to buy panic and sell hysteria, or let's focus on buy the panic, is there could still be a vast amount of reasons why you should not buy a stock or a commodity or gold or Bitcoin. But the price won't go any lower. Why? Because of the dynamics involved in the marketplace. You see, at a certain point, everyone who is going to sell, sells. And there's simply no more sellers. So when you have that one buyer, it increases the price. Whereas before, just using this very simple example, on the way down, before the price is bottomed, if there is only one buyer, and this represents aggregate demand, but there are two sellers, the price is going to go down. But if there are no sellers and one buyer, price goes up. And this is why you want to wait to a point where you get capitulation. And again, the way I see capitulation in my head, or the way I view it, is you've exhausted all of the people who are going to sell. And even if there still is a great argument for why there's the supply dynamics may get worse. The demand dynamics may get worse. You could have a thousand arguments why the price will go down based on fundamentals, and only one argument, or two or three, a lot less, why they will go up. If the sellers are completely exhausted, then the price, no matter how bearish you want to get on the fundamentals, the price will still go up. So at 78%, this tells me that 78% of the people holding Bitcoin right now are hodlers because of the so few transactions in the last 6 months. Well, maybe not 78% would be hodl. Let's see, let me think about this. A record proportion of Bitcoin units haven't transacted in 6 months. So I guess you could say 78% of the outstanding Bitcoin could, or most likely, would be held by hodlers. And that's a very high number. That's what would make me bullish. What would make me bearish is these hodlers are relatively new. I mean, Bitcoin itself hasn't been around that long. And I would argue probably a lot of these hodlers bought Bitcoin when it was sub 10,000. So they're still making out like bandits. So why would they, what would prompt them to sell? They're still in the, let's just hodl. Who cares about the price? It's volatility. And then you see a lot of people on Twitter say, oh, I don't measure Bitcoin in dollars. I measure it against other Bitcoin. So one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. The problem there is try telling that to your landlord, or try telling that to the grocery store. That's not going to do you much good, my friend. But I think if we go through a sustained bottoming process, which I think is very likely, and I think we could see more downside to the price just because, and Josh brings up a fantastic point. We talk about people having to, in the next recession that we most likely will see in 2023, having to sell their home because the negative wage growth has been so extreme that the only way that they can afford to make ends meet when they completely exhaust their savings or max out their credit card is going to be to sell their home to extract that home equity, or what little home equity they have left, to make sure they can put food on the table. And I don't think the Bitcoin hodlers will be exempt from this. Now, maybe a lot of them will, but a lot of them won't. So let's just say they don't have any home equity because they've put everything into Bitcoin. Okay, well, that's great when you're employed, but when you're unemployed and the cost of living is increasing by 10% per year, at some point you've got to make a decision. Either you continue to hodl, or you sell because you've got to feed your children. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying this is everybody, but I'm saying this, we could see this for a significant percentage, excuse me. So I don't know. I'm trying to give you some conclusions here, or some takeaways. But on the other hand, I don't want to just say something to say something. I guess for me personally, what I would like to see, well, I'd love to see this number go up, but I would also like to see how this plays out if the price not only continues to go down, but if it just stays flat. Because I also think a lot of the Bitcoiners, especially if they bought sub 10,000, they're so accustomed to making these huge gains, even if there's this massive volatility. And also they think that, these cycles just are a given. If the price stays flat for the next year or the next 2 years, I think not only a lot of them will be forced to sell because of a recession, but I think a lot of them will get bored. And they just don't have that adrenaline rush of the volatility. And so they want to move on to something else. And that's when you could see this notch down. I guess what I might look for, just thinking out loud, is to see the price stay the same or go down while this 78 goes down to, let's say, 62 or something, 65. That would probably make me really excited. Because if you see this number go down, meaning that there's more transactions as a percentage of the outstanding float over the last 6 months, and you don't see a corresponding price increase, but you even see a corresponding price decrease, that would tell me we're getting very close to capitulation. Because not only are the only people left the hodlers, but then the only people left would be the absolute, like Max Kaiser types.
And that's it for today. What do you think? Have we hit the bottom, or will we see more price action to the downside? Leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content. This was Investalence, and we'll see you in another video.